I just had a little bit of a crisis because I was not sure if I wanted to kind of like blow everything up with this book. A bunch of people are reading the book and it's starting to feel less like mine, and I'm starting to feel more okay with that. I pulled up a calendar of 2075, which is the year that the main story takes place in. I know it makes no sense, but it makes sense to me for now. My editor had asked me, these like 2 chapters in Act 2, and they were like, how much time has passed between these 2 chapters? And I was like, that's a great question. I have no idea. I was like, a week? I don't know. Hello, hi. Welcome back to another writing vlog. So today is December 3rd. Yesterday I got back my line edit on Local Heavens. If you are new to my channel, Local Heavens is my debut novel. It's coming out fall 2025. It is a queer cyberpunk reimagining of The Great Gatsby. I have about a week to finish my line edit. I was looking over the comments yesterday, and it doesn't seem like there's too many things that I need to change, but I'm going to go through and just like flag everything depending on how quickly I can do that. I might also work on my fantasy book, which I'm currently drafting. That is in its first draft. I might get to that in this vlog. I'm not entirely sure how long I'm going to be vlogging, but we'll see if that's possible. Actually, this morning was working on my fantasy book. I think I'm at about 70% of the way through my fantasy book, trying to really like power through it. So I had all of these like ideas swirling in my head for different scenes, so I just like couldn't get it out of my head this morning. So I basically like wrote a bunch, I like rearranged a bunch of stuff. I made like a sort of like audit of the plot where I like listed out all the chapters and everything that was happening in that chapter, because some things did switch around from my initial outline. I just like could not focus on my line edit until I got all those other ideas for my other book like out of my head. I don't want to procrastinate my line edit, even though it's not like the very last draft. It is the draft where I really want to be polishing up and tightening sentences and hopefully maybe cutting out some word count. I don't really know. So my fantasy book is nicknamed The Floating House. That's just kind of like what I've been calling it for now. It does have an actual title, but I do think that like now that I am way over the half points in The Floating House, now that I'm like wrapping up Act 2, feel like the finish line is within sight. I'm pretty excited about it. I do think that there are some things that are underdeveloped, but considering how the first drafts of my previous fantasy books have gone, I feel like I'm feeling really good about where The Floating House is right now. The Floating House is the 4th manuscript that I am like seriously working on, or the first 2 were fantasy. My 3rd book was Local Heavens, which is a sci-fi, and then this book is a fantasy as well. I've learned a lot of lessons from those other 2 fantasy books to the point where like this one, I think I've taken a lot of those lessons from the previous ones. The Floating House is very mature, or at least much more mature as a fantasy novel than the first 2 fantasy books. I do wish that I was a little bit further along in The Floating House. Obviously, I wish that I had finished the draft before the end of the year. It's fine, but I am hoping within Q1 that The Floating House will be done, because I'm so curious about how my agent is going to react to it. It's a lot more commercial than Local Heavens, which sits like a little bit more literary. So yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Clammy. Oh, wow, stretchy. Yawny. You want to say hi to the people, Clammy? She does not want to say hi to the people. Oh! Oh my gosh, it's so cute!
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Wow, this is fun. This is such a cute I'm happy with
You guys see the cat? She's been knocked out today. She does not care. I have been reflecting on my relationship with content creation and social media the last year and how I want to, I guess, approach my content in the new year. I feel like one of the things that I really need to do is just get organized emotionally, but also literally. Like, I don't want to be stressed out about social media. I guess I feel extra pressure about everything, but also social media, because 2025 is my debut year. So even if I wanted to, it's like not necessarily in my best interest to like fall off the face of the earth. So I want to be present, not just on YouTube, but also like Instagram and TikTok. I want to do so in a way that is productive, efficient, and not taking away too much time and energy from my actual writing, because especially with like video editing, which takes a long time. I don't want YouTube to just be a thing that I feel like I have to do. I want to do it because I enjoy doing it, because that's how all of this started out, which I have like talked about in other videos. But I feel like I need to feel creatively fulfilled outside of just my writing, and I think different creative outlets give me like different kinds of creative fulfillment, you know? One thing that has been helping me with this is Skillshare, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, and they have topics ranging from illustration, graphic design, marketing, productivity, and so much more. They have thousands of creative classes that are suitable for both beginners all the way to advanced learners. And Skillshare classes are designed and taught by industry experts in their respective creative fields, sharing their tools, techniques, and professional journeys. With Skillshare, you can take your career, hobby, side hustle to the next level. And one of the great things about Skillshare as well is that they have learning paths, which are collections of classes on a specific topic that are curated for you and presented in a sequential order. So you can dive deep into any topic that interests you, aside from all of the helpful classes on video editing. As an author that wants to build and maintain some kind of social media presence, I'm interested in their content creation classes, graphic and UI design, which is the field that I worked in full time for many years, and I want to keep my skills and my knowledge up to date. And of course, I also really love how many classes on creative writing that they have. I recently started Sabah Tahir's class on writing authentic fiction, how to build a believable character. One of my favorite things ever is just learning how other authors, especially, you know, these like very experienced, commercially successful authors, how they think about craft. I've also really been enjoying Roxanne Gay's class on crafting personal essays with impact. In her class, she talks about what it means to define your why you're writing, how to balance truth and honesty in your essays with creativity. If you're also interested in getting access to the thousands of classes on Skillshare, the first 500 people to use my link will receive a 1-month free trial. You can get started today by joining through the link in my description box. Thank you very much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Oh, I did want to share what I am currently reading. So ever since I like kind of stopped using Goodreads, I've like low-key forgotten what I have been reading. I've been listening to an audiobook of Everything We Never Had. I do have a physical copy of this book because I picked it up at the BMV. I've actually really liked the audiobook. If I can't finish the audiobook in time, I will just read the physical book. I really like the audiobook because there are it's a generational story. So there's like 4 different characters. There are 4 different narrators. They're all Filipino narrators. Yeah, it's just like a great audiobook, but I don't know if I'll finish the audiobook in time. Other book that I could not finish in time before it was returned was The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. So I did also buy a copy. I'm also currently reading Sword Crossed by Freya Marsk. I read all of her debut trilogy, like all 3 of those books. I liked them. This one I'm also enjoying. I'm getting through it really slowly though. I don't know if I mentioned this like in this vlog, but I finished reading Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. Oh my god. Okay, this book, I was listening to the audiobook and then I was like, I need a physical copy. Because first of all, look at this cover. This was just like another book that I inhaled. Like I think I got through it so quickly. Just a great read. Did really enjoy the character work in this book. So I don't know. Hello. That's the cat.
What are you doing?
Turned in my line edit 2 days ago. I kind of just like had a recovery day because my brain was so fried from that most recent edit. I felt like that line edit pass was like a little bit more intense than I thought it was gonna be. There were a lot of like things that I was noticing. I feel like when you've read a book like hundreds of times, you start to glaze over certain stuff where I was like, is this word the correct word to use? Other thing that I realized I had not done yet was there's like a little bit of Tagalog dialogue in the book, and I realized that I had never gotten anyone to look at that. Literally just me writing out of intuition, and my intuition was wrong. It was not great. I spent like 2 hours, I think, on the phone with my parents asking for their help, like translating certain lines. Obviously, like if you know anything about translation, it's never one-to-one, and it's very hard to translate things out of context. So I was like on the phone with my parents like on Sunday night, I think, trying to explain the plot of this book. Yeah, so that was the vibe, but we did it. It was very helpful to like actually get native speakers to like explain why certain words are used in certain ways. And like I ended up having to actually change like a little bit of the dialogue because sometimes what I thought would sound okay in my head just like it didn't feel right when I translated it. That was like a whole thing. Like that probably took me, yeah, multiple hours. So anyways, I got through that. I turned in my line edit. I did actually ask for a 1-day extension because of how much time that took on Sunday. Other thing that I had to do, which y'all, okay, like, let me just like show you guys this. I had not like really figured out the timeline of the story. I had like a vague timeline, and there are like certain points in the story, like the prologue happens late April, Nick moves to New York in mid-May, the denouement of the book happens from like end of September to November. I knew these things in my head. I had never ever written them down. I pulled up a calendar of 2075, which is the year that the main story takes place in. This side has floating house spoilers, but if you guys can see, I literally like wrote out the months. I know it makes no sense, but it makes sense to me for now. One of the reasons that I decided to do this because my editor had asked me these like 2 chapters in Act 2, and they were like, how much time has passed between these 2 chapters? And I was like, that's a great question. I have no idea. I was like, a week? I don't know. And then I laid it out and it was 3 days. 3 days had passed between the 2 chapters. That is what happened. I figured it out. I freaking figured it out.
Bushels.
Is that what a bushel is?
Isn't this what a bushel is? I don't know. The circle part?
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Doorknob turned, so.
It's not locked.
Why does this remind me of Little Women so much?
House tour. This is your house tour, Celine?
Yeah, this is my garden. This is where I like to come outside and draw. That's where I wait for my father's guests with their ponies and their carriage.
It's been quite a week. What have I been up to in the last few days? Started working on the floating house again. And my plan for the rest of the year was to draft right through to the end of Act 2. And then for a couple days, I just had a little bit of a crisis because I was not sure if I wanted to kind of like blow everything up with this book, look at the plot again and just change things. I wasn't quite sure if the plot was dragging, so I started going back and forth with the plot, if I should change things, if I should take things out. I couldn't identify anything that I wanted to change or specifically to omit, so I was really struggling with that and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. To eat breakfast, y'all. Let's move to the kitchen. Okay, so the floating house. I was also on the fence about whether or not I wanted to actually split the plot of the floating house, make it 2 books, and just kind of pitch it as a duology. I was kind of on the fence about it because just wasn't sure like how my agent would feel about pitching something that is definitely meant to be a duology, and I just wasn't sure how good that single first book would be as a standalone, because the ending that I envisioned, to me, that is like the ending of the book, and I wasn't sure if that should be the ending of book 1 and then we should extend past that, or if that ending should kind of be delayed as the ending of the ending of book 2. But then would book 1 still be a satisfying read on its own? I don't know. Yeah, so then as I was in the midst of struggling through that question, my publisher let me know that my editor has the draft right now and we're gonna move into copy edit. But the line edited draft, the one that I just turned in, is the one that I would have to send out to get author blurbs. Until I got my book deal, I never thought about them. And then the moment that I had to like sit down and draft these emails to other authors, I was like, this is a thing, like this is a whole process. I've been doing this for the last 2 days, and so many things that I've been feeling as I've been going through the blurb process, because you have to kind of like think about authors that you like, authors that you've read, authors in your genre. And even though I did pick authors that I genuinely enjoyed, I like their work, it would mean a lot if they read the book. Like, these are all true things, but somehow putting that onto like putting that into a message, into an email, it is so mortifying. So yeah, that's how blurbing is going.
Clemmy, get down from there. Clemmy.
Alright, I really haven't been able to film much this first week. We're coming up on the first week of January, and yeah, it's been very hectic. I think I've gotten through all of the authors that I needed to reach out to for blurbs. I feel like I'm missing, I don't know why, I feel like I'm missing someone. I don't know. I am really glad that I like sat down last year and read a lot of especially science fiction books, because I think it made coming up with a blurb list much easier. To be honest, I don't feel stressed about this process anymore. I feel like another reason that I'm not really stressed about who actually will ultimately get around to blurbing it is because I already feel grateful at the amount of authors that I admire. Like, these are authors I really, really like. And just the fact that they just look at the manuscript, that they know it exists. What else? I do have a new short fiction piece out. It is Rice Paper Magazine. I've been reading Rice Paper for a pretty long time. I would say like probably at least since high school, and it's free to read. It's on their website now. They put it up pretty quickly. So yeah, it is literary fiction, a pretty old piece. I wrote it quite a while ago. Yeah, it's like kind of a departure from like the stuff that I write now. It is really interesting to have revisited this like literary fiction piece, I don't want to say close that chapter, but to let it go. One of the last literary fiction pieces that I ever wrote, I think I wrote it back in like originally in like 2022 maybe. Wasn't sure that I ever wanted to submit it anywhere, but Rice Paper felt like a good home for it. As I have, you know, started 2025, I'm feeling a lot of debut pressure. The flood of pressure and anticipation, anxiety and excitement and nerves and imposter syndrome, and like this whole storm of emotions that you feel when you enter your quote-unquote debut year. I think that there's probably things that get easier as you get further in your writing career. I would say starting in like October, November, December, I was feeling so much dread going into this year. I tried to talk about it, I think, in my last vlog, but I ended up cutting out all of that footage, and I'm learning to just let go of the story. That's another thing about how this blurb process has felt like to me, is I was so scared of, you know, so many other people reading it and I hadn't fully emotionally prepared. But now that I'm like in it, and now that a bunch of people are reading the book, and it's starting to feel less like mine, and I'm starting to feel more okay with that. I don't have pre-orders open yet. My cover is not finished yet. I think at the start of the year there's this like rush of promotion that a lot of authors, you know, try to take advantage of, and everyone's making their like most anticipated lists. When you don't have a cover or, you know, your pre-orders aren't up yet, like there's not a lot for you to promote yet, like because my book is not gonna be out until way later in the year. I was kind of sad about that in the beginning because I was like, oh, I can't really promo my book in the same way that, you know, other authors get to at the start of the year. Now that I think about it, I feel like maybe that's actually fine. I think I would have been really stressed out over the holidays if I had to like constantly think about book promotion and pre-orders and blah blah blah. The Floating House. I decided to write a new chapter into Act 2. I had finished Act 2, then I decided to go back to it, and I felt like I was missing a chapter. The Floating House is going slower than I thought. It's a long book. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of things going on. The struggle that I have been having with the first draft of The Floating House is figuring out plot threads. There was something that I was just so stuck on with the magic system. I was able to work through it. I talked through a lot of the issues with my brother, and he basically helped me reframe like how to look at the magic system and how to convey it to the reader.
Are you mad because I woke you up?
Okay. Today is January 7, 8? I don't actually know. This vlog has actually spanned quite a long time. I'm supposed to get copy edits back on Local Heavens at some point. We'll just end the vlog here because if we vlog copy edits, like it's gonna take so long. But anyways, in terms of like how I see the next couple weeks going, depending on, you know, when copy edits come back for Local Heavens, my goal is to really just recenter on The Floating House. I feel like I am a little bit behind where I want to be in The Floating House. Like I was mentioning, I had so many more plot issues in the draft than I thought I was gonna have. I'm trying to like give myself grace because it's a first draft. Look, it's a first draft. At this point, I'd rather just not drag it out. I think that's like something that has really unconsciously been paralyzing me for some reason. Just like the idea of having a first draft that's way too long. I can get the word count down because I've done it before. Like when I think about where Local Heavens is right now as a draft, like it's sitting at like 115K. Like it's not like Local Heavens is a particularly short novel either. Even if this first draft does hit 120, it's fine. Like it's fine. I can deal with it later. It's fine. I am treating the first draft of The Floating House like it needs to somehow read like not a first draft. It's just like, it's not gonna happen, girl. It's not gonna happen. Even though progress has been slow, because I got through that road bump with the magic system, I have genuinely been feeling way better about the story. In a way, there's sort of like two separate magic systems in The Floating House, or like it starts out being perceived as two separate magic systems. Yeah, it all comes down to exposition. Like I have really struggled with exposition, or I guess for the first week of January, I think I was kind of like fighting debut nerves off. I'm debuting this year and I need to be so external facing in order for me to like really lock in with my writing. I also feel like I need to, like, it's hard for me to just like go back and forth between like doing content stuff, doing publishing stuff, and then sitting down and drafting. And I know I have to learn how to figure out what that balance is. If there's any specific content that you guys want to see this year, also do let me know. I do not have pre-order links yet for Local Heavens. I have been asked so many times when our pre-order is gonna be available. I apologize that I do not know. Don't worry, you're not gonna miss it because I'm gonna be really annoying about pre-orders. If you like for sure don't want to miss it, then just follow me on my socials and subscribe to my Substack because I'll definitely post an update. I'm excited about this year. I'm excited about everything that's to come. I'm also very nervous. It's not like I can control like 99% of the things that happen this year, so it's fine. If you want to support me or my work, I have a Ko-fi. It is open for one-time donations. It's also open for monthly memberships, and I'm just so appreciative of everyone who has supported me over there. And also to everyone who's like been watching this YouTube channel. Thank you very much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If any of you guys have any creative New Year's resolutions for this year and you're interested in joining Skillshare, you can get a 1-month free trial. So just join through the link in my description box. And yeah, that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope all your writing projects are going well. I'll see you in the next one.